Hey, superstars. So I've been thinking a lot about, that's not true. I have not been thinking a lot about the Roe versus Wade thing. And I have thought about it because it's up in the collective and it's really loud and people have a lot of opinions and are projecting them all over the place. I got an email today from a life coach who's like, how are you doing? I know people are so challenged with this Roe thing. And I'm like, why would you project that onto me? Like, I'm not giving my emotional center away to the theatrics of a political psyop. I don't work like that. As well, I don't expect daddy government to give me permission to do what I'm going to do. And I don't expect the Western medical paradigm to clean up my messes for me. So those are just some caveats. But, I've been looking at it from different angles. And I think it sucks. I want to be clear. I think it sucks from one aspect of me, right? I'm completely pro-choice, and not pro-choice in terms of like the that trope per se, but in terms of like, I'm for all freedom, right? And really no one has a right to tell anyone what to do with their body, right? So that's that piece of it. And I think that those, like, it's just such a weaponized, loaded conversation, right? And it's loaded with toxins on purpose. It's been completely weaponized. So that's another part of my reticence to really get into it. But one thing that I am noticing is that there's a certain side, right? Like people who are claiming to be anti-choice, who are like over the top excited, right? And now granted, that's a reaction to the pro-choice people who are out there like throwing parties for how awesome it is to have an abortion, which I also think is pretty, I don't want to put a judgment on it, but I think it takes what's a very personal, multi-layered decision, and it makes it like this cavalier, like kind of reckless fuck you, which I would hope none of our medical decisions, especially one with so many implications, would be. And I'm not sure if that really lined up syntax wise. I'm sure you can make the adjustments in your head, but I am noticing this like anti-choice side being like, I'm thinking of that. I think it's Kendrick Lamar, that song where it's like, bitch, be humble, like bitch, be humble. Okay. Your side, if you're caught up in that polarity construct, maybe your side won, but let's not kid ourselves. The Supreme Court does not care about women or fetal lives. This is a completely strategic political move that is timed to create more division, more tension among the populace, right? And also to take away my body, my choice from the Constitution, which I'm going to bookmark and come back to because I think this is an important point. But in terms of bitch, be humble, you know what, like have some humility, have some dignity. There's no need to go dehumanizing people who are upset about this decision. We really don't need to dehumanize anyone. And I don't think it is anyone's place to say what someone else should do with their body. That's fine if that's your choice and that's how you're going to choose to honor yourself, should you find yourself in that position. But beyond that, you're out of your lane, right? Total wrong use of will. But for the part of the population that has been really annoyed, and I include myself in this, over mandates regarding, what would be put into our bodies or how we're supposed to, cover our bodies, et cetera, now we've lost the my body, my choice constitutional protection. So if you think that that's not going to be used against you and to come back to haunt you in these other conversations, I'd like to be wrong, but again, this is strategic. So be mindful of what it is that you're actually celebrating, because this is also the first instance wherein the Supreme Court has rolled back a constitutional amendment. So now that precedent has been set, which can be applied to other constitutional amendments. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And I think we can see that for the American populace as a whole, not two falsely divided sides, that's not in our best interests. Now, I can also see the point in terms of, what Planned Parenthood really is, what's happening with these fetuses, how this practice is being pushed in certain communities among certain segments of the population. Like there's validity to that. And I also think that we really need to reflect on our relationship to abortion. And if we are using it as last minute birth control, if we are being reckless about it, is this a thoughtful decision wherein we're weighing all the consequences? Is there prayer and honoring and ritual around the life that we are choosing to terminate? Let's not pretend that we're not. Is there awareness there? Is there respect there? And how reckless are we being with our bodies? Are we allowing people into our bodies with whom we would never in 100 bajillion years consider procreating with? And is that in our wisest choice? Is that honoring of our sacred vessels? These are all larger conversations that I think we would be wise to have, because I do think the way that we are approaching abortion in this country and the way that abortion is being foisted upon us is out of integrity, and again, it's a very personal decision that I don't think it's on anyone to legislate, which brings me back to the aha that I had last night about the Constitution. And I was thinking about it and mulling it over from all angles and like, okay, well, we just lost the constitutional amendment to, and let's also be clear, all the Constitution does is tell us what it's like doesn't give us the right to do things. It says that we can't have certain rights taken away. Like it's not, like anyone can choose to abort, anyone can take herbs and do it the way that they want. But what this does is it takes it out of the federal decision-making body, right? And it gives it to the states, which I still think is overkill. But what I came to last night is like, good, I'm kind of glad that's out of the Constitution, because I don't really want any sort of decisions over what I can or can't do with my body in my Constitution. It's no one's business. It's not the government's business at the federal level, and it's not the government's business on a state level. So there's a part of me that's like, I'm kind of glad that they pulled it out. I don't think that the Constitution should be delineating which medical procedures can be mandated, are allowed, are not allowed. I don't think that's any of their business, nor do I think it's the state's business. But, that's a separate conversation. But there was this other part of me from a more integrous, like centered place that I'm like, yeah, why would that be in the Constitution in the first place? That's kind of weird, right? And I also think it's weird, and I have spoken about this before, but how so many of these people who are literally in hysterics around this conversation, like freaking out, like I'm so, are personally on a personal level uncentered and imbalanced because of this abortion thing, but could not be bothered to raise an eyebrow about censorship and the fact that we don't have a First Amendment right in this country anymore, and that we really don't have freedom of speech. And I'm looking at like, where are our priorities as a nation that like, they bring out the National Guard, and again, all by design, because they knew people would be so upset about this one, and nothing will piss, according to the narrative, nothing pisses the left off more or women off more than this one, which is true. We're seeing this, right? And like, what a great way to divide the Republican Party as well. Like, bravo to the social engineers. Excellent. You get an A+ in fuckery. But like, where are our priorities as a nation that we value and think the conversation over abortion is more pressing than censorship? And again, none of this is to say it's ever okay to force a woman to carry a child to term and that she doesn't want to. I would never say that, because no one can make that decision for anyone else, and no one knows what it's like unless we ourselves are in that position, in which case we only have will and authority to decide for ourselves. But it's weird to me that that is prioritized way more than freedom of speech in this country. And I think it's I'm just offering another reflection, like, we might want to look at ourselves here, because this seems pretty fucked up. We do not have the fundamental right to free speech in this country, but no one cares as much as the baby killing conversation, when there are actually herbs that grow naturally that native and tribal peoples have been using since the beginning of time. Ever since women have been having sex, women have been using God's herbs to terminate pregnancies that they didn't want to have. So it's also weird to me that everyone puts all their eggs in the basket called daddy government. And unless daddy government gives us his thumbs up and gives us his way to do it, then there's no other way. Get out of the box. Like, it's time for us to get out of the box. And for anyone who is in this conversation, left, right, pro, anti, what have you, I'm inviting you to not give your emotional center away to what is a theatrical psyop, right? It is so designed to take our negative emotions. And is it possible to have every feeling you're having and to not spew them willy-nilly, to not dehumanize and hate and blame other people in the process? Can you just work with your feelings that you are having yourself with all of your grown-up tools and not go around spewing them on the planet and making it a more divided, less unified, harmonious place? Just some food for thought. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for remembering that every word matters, that you are omniscopic amazingness. Have a rockin' day. Mwah.